Hello and welcome to Sword and Tea. I am Derek Sword. I use he, him pronouns. I am your host for today as we talk about tea, TTRPGs, and maybe even some T-ball. I am joined by Robin Caulfield, who is the writer and creator of Play Ball, which is a baseball anime manga-esque kind of TTRPG. I will let her say more about that as that's what we're talking about. If you in chat have any questions you would like to ask about the game, ask Robin about, gameplay creation, any of that kind of stuff. Of course, keep the questions respectful, but you can post them in chat, or if you are a member of our Discord, you can always post them over on Discord as well. I think that's where we're at. I should note that as far as the tea part of Sword and Tea, I am enjoying a cup of Bard's Blend from Friday Tea. Maybe at the break mark, I'll switch over to some Lady Grey, or what is it? It's Mistress Grey. That's right, because they make it just a little kinky. But yes, if you are also enjoying a proper cup of tea, whether it's a morning tea, afternoon tea, or evening tea to settle down, we encourage you to join in as well. I'm trying to use my best NPR tone right now. I hope it's coming through. Robin, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for, first of all, for creating this game, because it's like nothing I have ever seen before. So that automatically makes it stand out. But thank you for taking some time to chat about it. Before we get into any of that, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, kind of your background with TTRPGs, all that kind of stuff.
Well, first of all, Friday tea is great. I have a couple of bags of their tea, and if I had more time before I got home, I would have had a cup of tea. But instead, I've just
Completely
got
fair.
like a,
Yeah,
I've just got a black cherry soda. It's fine. I,
that
I like
tracks.
I like to drink sodas out of bottles.
What is
It,
tea if not just a liquid made from brewing things? Everything's tea. Why not?
Soup is a tea, as
Soup is a tea.
I can't remember who I had that conversation with, but that was a long one, and it was complicated, and we really had to go through some hard stuff before we came to the conclusion that
Easily the
soup
most
is tea.
controversial statement that's ever been made on Sword and Tea is soup is tea. So congratulations on that. We're not even
Great.
5 minutes in.
Fantastic. So that's a little bit about me. That's my vibe.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I am a trans woman who designs tabletop games. I've gotten to work on some really cool stuff with other people, including the Super Sentai RPG with Son of Oak, the people who bring you City of Mist. I worked on their Queers TTRPG. I did an adventure for their adventure anthology, Hero Support. That game is coming out very soon. It had a really great Kickstarter, all that. I was in a Polygon article for my work on that adventure because the whole game was featured, and they were like, "Hey, this person did this for us that we thought was really great." So that was cool. But Play Ball is kind of it. I've done a lot of podcasts. I've done a lot of streams. That's where most people in the TTRPG space would probably know me from, the podcast and the streams of it all. I love D&D podcasts. I love to run them. I love to be a part of them. I love to listen to them. That's kind of how I got started in tabletop games, and then it
Sure.
has just to, not to skip right to Play Ball, but Play Ball became a thing because I was talking to Nomadic, if any of you are familiar with
Sure. Yeah.
that wonderful person, about we were going to do a baseball sports anime actual play, and we couldn't find a system that really fit what we were looking for. So I was like, hey, here's this one suggestion, but let me just see if I can't come up with a couple of just basic mechanics and see if that works for us. And in about 2 days, I made a whole tabletop game, more or less. And so my streams and my podcasts all eventually led me to this point. I just like tabletop games. I think they're fun. I think they're neat. I think they're a very unique form of storytelling that isn't explored nearly as much as it should with certain like stories. It's like, oh, we can just write a book or make a movie or do this. Or it's like, but what if you did a tabletop show instead? Is kind of how I see TTRPGs. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could be brought to life in a really unique way only through TTRPGs, as anyone who's played a TTRPG is well aware. So, yeah, I like
Absolutely.
sports. I like to cook. I like tea. I like collectibles. I like video games. I like all sorts of stuff. So, I'm cool.
Yeah, I would say that you are. That's a good selling point. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you. I think TTRPGs are one of those great storytelling mediums that, yeah, absolutely to your point, do not get enough attention. Bring a level of chance into your stories. Don't just write a movie and already know what's going to happen. Don't know what's going to happen. Let some sort of probability determinator bring in a level of chance to it. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And yeah, absolutely, Play Ball is phenomenal. I love the energy of I'm just going to write a couple of mechanics and then it turns into a 25-page TTRPG. I respect that energy. We were talking a little bit before this, and I understand also that it can be a level of exhausting, but also maybe that like itch in the back of your brain that's like, I have to keep doing this. I'm not like smiling while I'm doing it, but it has to get done.
Uh, have you ever designed a calendar for just a tabletop game that you were
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
Have
exactly.
you ever done 5+1 universal one just for the sake of world building? Because I did the first time I was like creating an entire setting by myself. I was like, okay, here's like the main continent, here's the main country everyone will be in. Now, here's like just kind of a calendar for that country. And then I'm like, here's a calendar for the world that goes based on like the gods' view of time. And
Absolutely,
then
yeah.
here's how like this like dwarven country views time. And then this elven one, and then this merchant one. And it's all like, what do they base the different seasons off of, like how do you end one, how do you end another. And then I started writing the history for the world, and I had to find out what year in 6 different calendars one event happened. uh so
Yeah, I respect that level of
yeah.
mental illness. I would say that yes. As folks who watch Horizons Call, which is our nautical campaign that I run, our first season was just supposed to be a self-contained 12 episode. You did the thing, you beat the big bad, congratulations. And they're like, no, we're having so much fun, let's keep playing this. So then I had to create a calendar and a map and figure out nautical
Yeah.
travel and how many knots they were traveling in a day, and then also like base that on the counter, like, okay, at what point were you all here, and then go back, not having had that when I first started, just playing willy-nilly with sea travel and be like, oh, you were at sea for like 6 months, let's do something about that. So yes, I fully respect that level of mental illness. It's a helpful one. I don't even know if that's the right thing to say.
As a game designer, it is both a boon and a curse,
Yes,
because
yes.
you'll spend all this time working on these like calendars, and then the players will go and do something in one place and stay there for 6 to 7 months just in game doing whatever and going on all these different adventures in the same place. And it's like, what about all these other moving parts in the rest of this world that I put on this timeline that are now like advancing as like you go through and do. And it's like, okay, they have no interest in it. This is just for me now. So it's great. It'll take up so much time, and sometimes that time will go to waste, and you just
Yeah,
have to be okay with it.
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is a broken person that can run a game. Yeah, broken in the right ways.
Takes a broken
Well,
person to put it all together.
it really does. Well, Robin, to talk a little bit more about kind of your background with this, you said that you big fan of sports, big fan obviously of
Yeah.
TTRPGs, played a bunch of those. You played sports in your past as well. Still play sports, maybe?
Too many concussions to still play sports. Once you get past 7, the sports kind of stop. Once you get to 14 or 15, you're kind of wondering how you got here
Yeah,
after
past that magic number.
stopping the
Yeah.
contact sports. And you
Yeah.
just kind of gotta, the brain damage will really kind of pump the brakes on
Yeah.
sports. But I spent my entire life. I started playing sports when I was, 4 or 5 years old, and I was really good at some of them. As a wrestler, I was on a state championship level, as just like a collegiate type wrestler. I also trained as a professional wrestler, like the kind you'll see on, in the WWE. So that was a really fun part of my life. That came after I quit sports,
Sure.
and was like, I'm not going to do like football or anything anymore. Let me do this. But really, I mean, honestly, since my transition, I haven't done anything sports wise, not related to my transition. But it just kind of worked out that way.
Sure.
But
I
yeah,
have to
no.
ask, if you had gone into professional wrestling, what would your professional wrestling name be? I can't leave that just.
So I used to be part of a lot of EFEDs growing up. So I did a lot
Okay.
of like forum based role playing
Sure. Yeah.
for pro wrestling. So the thing is, back then, when I still thought I was a man or was pretending to be, I had a very different wrestling persona. I haven't put any thought into what my name would be now, even though I play like the WWE games. I just kind of
Sure.
take names of my tabletop characters and throw them in there. I think the most recent one, and I literally created the tabletop, like the character that I played in Starcross Seaways last year for EN Publishing and Level Up A5E. I think I literally took the entire name for that character and took it from a wrestler I had created in a WWE video game.
Sure.
Her name was Elizabeth Flynn, and I'm like, she's just got a pirate gimmick going on. That's just the
I
whole
love
thing,
that.
because
Yeah.
because the assets were there in the game to make just like the most fun entrance with the most sensible like theme song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, Elizabeth Flynn. And then I literally made that exact same character for a pirate themed TTRPG campaign. I love pirates. I don't think if I were actually a pro wrestler, I would go with a pirate gimmick, because that would only get over to a certain point. You could never become a world champion with a pirate gimmick, regrettably.
Unfortunately.
You should.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
Because what is better as a treasure than the world title? But I digress. We're not here to talk about that, but
stop, making them fight over a briefcase full of money. Make it a chest. Make it doubloons.
Yeah. I mean, it's all gold, right?
It's all gold.
But yeah, I imagine if I were to like go back into professional wrestling right now, if I had to say this is what my name would be, like just my performer name, the gimmick would need some work. I'd probably be a heel, because I can really do the big ego thing really well.
I respect that, though.
So
every show needs a good heel.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Speaking of, one of my favorite TTRPGs is the Worldwide Wrestling RPG. It's fantastic, and that is a game that I took a lot of inspiration from for Play Ball. Just kind of the way that it was stylized. I'm like, okay, I kind of like a lot of these points. Let me see if it inspired just some of the things that I did. I did them very differently, and in some ways were not even close to similar, but they were inspired. They gave me a different idea, essentially. It was great.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk a little bit more, since you're mentioning inspiration through other TTRPGs. This also is a game that isn't just like, it's not Major League Baseball. It's not even necessarily just American baseball. A lot of people who kind of just focus on American baseball forget that it's really popular in a lot of places. A lot of the players that we have in American baseball aren't even American. So yeah, whether you're talking about anywhere in South America that's really popular, or Japan, where it is massive over there, but in addition to all of that, this definitely has the feel of, a sports anime or a sports manga. What were some of your big inspirations for that aspect? Are there any sports animes or mangas that like really stood out as like, this is where I'm going to pull from?
Oh yeah, 100%. I love anime. First of all, just full stop, love anime. I mean, 90% of these collectibles behind me in my background are anime
I was
figurines.
gonna say, yeah.
Um, Also, like, I have anime tattoo. I love anime, just full stop. I think it is so fun. It's so good. It's just great content. As far as some of the best anime that I have watched and enjoyed in my life, a lot of them are sports anime. I mean, I love Naruto, I love One Piece, I love all these things, but there's so many great sports anime. Kuroko's Basketball, for one, it was a huge inspiration to kind of what I wanted to do with play ball. Because Kuroko's Basketball, you have the Generation of Miracles, you have all these players who kind of have a super ability. Um, and it's like they like the main character other than Kuroko on Kuroko's team, his big thing is he can jump. He can just jump better than everybody else when he goes into the zone and everything. And I was like, this is a really cool thing. It's literally an isekai, but it's a sports anime. Like, it's a sports isekai. And I'm like, okay, this is great. This works. Let me just kind of do something with that. And that's how in play ball you have character tropes. Essentially, you're the main characters of a team in a sports anime, and you all have special abilities while your teammates do not. Like, you can just choose to kind of hit a home run at some point in a game with one of the like power hitter classes or something like that. And it's like, you just kind of dig a little bit deeper, you go into the zone and you hit a home run. And it's like, that's massive. That would be a huge moment when you decide to use that. Like, you can use it at a time that doesn't matter, but that would be silly. Like, you'll
Right.
use it late in the game when, like, the chips are down and you're trying to just
Yeah.
overcome that sort of obstacle. And
It's that
so
story moment.
yeah. And so Kuroko's Basketball was a big one, just because of the style of it all. Like, it was the right thing mechanically speaking. But when you start looking at like off the field stuff, because it's still a TTRPG, it's not just a baseball simulator where you roll dice. It can be, if that's what you want it to be. Like, it facilitates that. It also facilitates a much more like narrative heavy style of play. So if you're looking for more of the slice of life stuff, more of the off court, off field stuff, like you might get a little more in Haikyuu, or something like a Hero no Sora, which is a really good one, or Aoashi, which is a good one that didn't necessarily inspire play ball, but is a soccer one that came out this year. But you can also then lean more heavily into like the Ace of Diamond, which is a baseball anime that is fantastic, or something like Blue Lock, which is really popular right now and is truly just a sports isekai. It's like, all of these anime are so good, and there's no reason to not make a tabletop game using sports and using anime and
Yeah.
smashing them together. And I was like, this is great. This is a genius idea. And let me pick the sport people care the least about.
I
It's
I'm not sure that's necessarily true. It could have been curling. Um,
Listen, do you see the attention curling gets during the Olympics?
curling
It's
gets a lot of attention, like I think in the US and Canada, because we're like, oh, something you can do. It's the sport you can do while holding a beer,
yeah,
which is, yeah, being somebody from the Midwest where like cornhole is a thing.
love
I
cornhole.
think that's where it's popular.
Yeah,
Cornhole's nice. Yeah.
but yeah, no, baseball's my favorite sport.
Yeah.
I grew up in New York, so my grandparents were actually Yankee season ticket holders, so I've literally been to a World Series game where the Yankees won the World Series in New York. And the city, that was one of the most magical nights of my life, because I saw New York City shut down completely, and just blocks, like miles of just a huge crowd of people just in pure jubilation that this like just happened. I was in like middle school. I was in like the 7th grade or something, and it was just incredible uh one of the most incredible sights that I'd ever seen.
That
As
sounds amazing.
and it I had already loved baseball. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, though, just for the record. Let me
I
throw that
was
out
going to
there.
ask. I was going to ask Yankees or Mets, but it's not Cubs. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So 2016, fantastic. When the Cubs won the World Series, I was crying. When they traded a bunch of the players who helped them win that World Series away, I was under my desk sobbing.
A different type of crying. Yeah.
Yes, yes. A much sadder version of crying. But like, I love baseball. I think baseball is there's a reason that some of the best sports movies ever are baseball movies. Just for the record, throwing that out there. But it's like when I thought about putting it together with like tabletop games and anime, and I had watched Days of Diamond. I love that anime. It's fantastic. It is a great baseball anime. And I'm like, this sort of thing would go really great as a tabletop game when I was leaning towards that. I'm like, I know a lot of people who like sports anime. I know a lot of people who like TTRPGs. Let me put them together. I love baseball, so that'll be the sport I choose for now. And you don't have to like or know anything about baseball whatsoever to play this game. And that was a huge selling point of it for me, because I don't have that many people that I know in the TTRPG space that are baseball fans. I know quite a few who are also Cubs fans, like me, like Gnome.
Sure.
There's quite a few of us who are specifically a fan of the same team, which has kind of brought us together. But I was, baseball just made sense because it's the thing that I love the most. It wasn't the thing I was best at, because I played a lot of sports and I was very good at some, not great at others, but I still loved to play them. Baseball was not my best. It wasn't my worst. I was still pretty good. I threw pretty hard. Wasn't a great hitter. Terrible hitter. And that's because I didn't have glasses. I would have been much better if I knew I had poor eyesight earlier in life.
I also feel that pain. Yeah, yeah. What age did you get glasses? I was 18. And was wondering why I was bad at math. It's because I was sitting at the back of the class and couldn't read what was on the board.
I was in middle school, and
okay,
my history teacher in like the 8th grade. I was in the 8th grade, so I was like 13, 14. I refused to get glasses for the longest time. My history teacher forced me to sit up front because she was like, you are squinting at the board. I'm going to move you up front until you get glasses. And I'm like, I don't want to sit up front. So let me tell my mom I need to go get glasses. Yeah. And then I got them, and they were so ugly. So when I got these like much bigger frames much later in life, I was much happier with my glasses. I used to like never wear them if I was on camera or taking a photo or anything. There's a lot of selfies early on in my transition where no glasses, and then you see a sort of switch in my life where I'm only in glasses. You don't see me take selfies without them anymore, ever.
I'm assuming you and I are roughly the same generation. So absolutely, there were like 2 options for glasses back in the day. There was like the clear ones and then the really chunky, bad black ones. And yeah.
Like
these are, they're a better version of, and have become stylish. We're not stylish now.
They're more aesthetically pleasing. And that's the thing. If you're going to make me wear something just to see and exist in my life, I absolutely have to look cute while I'm doing it. Like if I don't wear a ton of accessories. The glasses have to look good. They take up so much of my...
And a necessity. Absolutely.
Exactly. If it's gonna be a necessity, it might as well be a cute accessory.
Exactly. Great. Well, okay. So going back to play ball and all that, and you having played sports and engaged with, I would say one of the things I was a really big fan of reading through this is the way that you were able to gamify a baseball game, but again, not just in like a way that, and I think you could do this. I think that if you had like 2 groups of TTRPG players who both created a baseball game and they rolled against each other and you had automatic successes here and there, you could play it. but I think the spirit of the game, and absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, is more to feel out the role play of both playing the game, having those sports hero moments, and then the aftermath, whether you won or lost, what, pitting your team against, whether it's an easier team or the rival that they've had all season, and whether they win or lose. It's also those role play moments after the game that really set this apart as not just a sports TTRPG, but something a little bit more, which I really loved.
Yeah. So the real challenge with baseball is there's a lot of different variables you have to consider. There's 9 different places for the 9 different players on the field that this ball can go. And then if you count a 10th being, or a 10th or 11th, you count foul territory, and then you count home runs just that don't go to anybody, and you don't really have a shot at stopping those half the time. The challenge became, how do I match dice rolls to this? And so I didn't use like a tabletop system. Like, it's not powered by the apocalypse or anything like that. I couldn't just like adjust. The reason I started making it in the first place was that there wasn't another system out there that was easy to match with baseball in particular.
Sure.
And for me, I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And when I started doing like the different phases, I'm like, okay, so you have like this phase, you have the 3 phases of the game, you have the at-bat phase, you have the live ball phase, you have like a series of dice rolls. So you roll once, twice, 3 times, and that determines kind of the outcome of this. I could have made it 1 dice roll. I could have made everyone's life a little bit easier and a little less crunchy. But here's the thing about baseball. It is the nerdiest, most math-induced game that is considered a sport ever. Like, baseball has so many stats, and they're all rooted in just various different things of math. They're all percentages and probabilities and all of that stuff. That's all just what baseball is. It is math. Baseball is math.
Yeah, I would say that if you go to any other professional sports game, they don't hand you a card that you can do math on the back of. They don't hand you a card where you can write down and do an algebra problem for somebody's stats on the back. You don't get that at soccer. You don't get that in football. At baseball, absolutely, I would agree with you. Is that nerdy sport?
And it's so nerdy. Like, analytics are bigger in baseball than they are in any other sport. Like, they're getting big in other sports, but like baseball did it years and years ago. They literally made a movie starring Brad Pitt about the math of it all in Moneyball. Like, that's what it is. So I was like, okay, nerds who love TTRPGs are already okay with dice and math and rolling a bunch of dice. I challenge almost anyone who plays TTRPGs to tell me that they only have 1 set of dice, and not because they just got into it or just because, they maybe can't afford to get a second set of dice. Like, it's not a necessity to really have more than 1, but we all have more than 1. I have tins and buckets full of dice. Like, I have so many dice, and I have more than I need. I DM and am a GM in a lot of games. Never do I need more than 10 sets of dice at any given moment, and yet I have so many more sets of dice than that. So I'm like, okay, I'll just make a bunch of dice rolls. You get to use all the different dice. I gave the D12 a lot of shine in this game, more than the D20, because I like the D12 a lot. And I'm like, okay, this one will be used for this. You'll use your D10. You'll do this and this and this. But yeah, no, like, when you take the crunch out of it, and there is a whole separate style of play that you don't need to do anything other than roll a d20 a couple of times, and you can focus purely on the narrative and everything. Because I was thinking of the person who didn't want the crunch and didn't want to roll all these dice and do all this extra math and just kind of wanted to role play with their friends. I thought of that, and that one takes a lot of a lot of that sort of those role play moments that you were mentioning, like they carry a whole half of this game.
Yeah.
But the off-field stuff, and like you can really tailor this game to what you want, you and your group. Like if you all want, more of the sports, great. If you want more of the off-field like life challenges that you deal with, that's great too. Like college entrance exams or, all that stuff. If that's something that you want to, really focus on and be like, how do I balance this narratively for my character, like the family struggles or this or that, and then also make time for practice. Like maybe you give yourself some negatives because you were tired from cramming all night and studying, so you're giving yourself disadvantage on a roll or something like that the next day, which isn't something I necessarily wrote into the book, but like you can just do that if you want, like,
Yeah.
because it makes sense narratively, and the game has a lot of freedom for you to use any of those narrative moments to your benefit or otherwise, just kind of in the mechanics of it all, but also in the crunchier side of it. I have the live ball phase, the at-bat phase, those are all on the field, but I literally wrote in an entire phase during the game in the dugout phase where it's in between innings, the teams are switching sides, and you can role play in that moment with your team, with your fellow players, kind of how you're feeling. Like maybe you're behind by 5 or 6 runs and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Maybe, maybe you're up a huge amount and you're getting a little complacent, or you're really like being a little cocky about it. Maybe you're heckling the other team, but maybe there's also stuff that happened before the game or after like the last game or something that you want to address in that moment with your teammates, like the relationship that you have with each other. And it's just kind of like you can do that in the middle of the game. You don't have to wait for it to be over. You can, if that's what your character would do. Like if your character is the kind of person who's going to keep their head down, focus on the game, and then, blow up and start throwing punches afterwards, as if you played high school sports, you've seen it before. 2 players get into a disagreement, maybe one of them slept with the other person's girlfriend, and all of a sudden those 2 people hate each other, but it's in every like TV drama about sports ever. Like there was like a relationship problem and then they're playing really badly on the field and then they get into a fight, and in the middle of the game in the locker room they're like, the coach is like, what's going on between you two, blah blah blah, and then they get benched and then don't come back in because they were beating each other up, and then the team loses, and then the coach is like, this is your fault, figure it out, and then they do by the end of the episode, and it's great. You can do that in Play Ball. That's a scenario that you can live out if you want, and it's written in there. It's also just kind of out there. If you want, like in the narrative, like the more narrative heavy one, you can do that in that one more than you can maybe in the other one. But yeah, no, it definitely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that you brought up and I really appreciate is, so often when you have some people, when they watch sports, they treat the players like they're machines. Like, oh, I can't believe so and so didn't perform the same way they did it the last time. Like it's some sort of just like program or machine that's supposed to have the same set of running time or whatever, from one instance to another. But absolutely, emotions are a big part of it. And baseball being, I mean, one of the American sports, especially, where you can see the emotion. I mean, if you look at a pitcher's face, you can try to read what's going through his head, and the body language and everything is such a big part of the game that it's not just, oh, you have somebody out there just pitching every single time, what's he going to do this time? But it's how he's feeling. If he's I mean, walked 3 players, he's not having a great day. He's already losing confidence in himself, and then you have the other aspect of then the coach potentially trading him out and what that does. And yes, to your point, it's absolutely a stat heavy game, that then has so much emotion behind it. And that's really what I loved about Play Ball, is it has both sides of that, and it ties them together very well. Because yeah, if you're not, if like you said, if you had to cram for a college exam the day before, that's absolutely going to affect you. If you didn't sleep well the night before, that's going to affect the performance during the game. And that brings me to something I did want to talk about was, of course, the old saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. However, the cover of Play Ball is fantastic. It is a beautiful piece of artwork. If you do want to shout out your artist now, and I believe your partner.
Yeah, shout out to my fiance who did all of the art, like all the character art, all the position trope arcs. There's one in particular my fiance is very proud of, and it's there's a class for one of the character tropes called the Rookie. It is the little icon is a baby with a baseball bat, and it just has tickled my fiance ever since they drew it. But my fiance Stevie, love of my life, at Bloody Lovely, BLOODILOVELI on Twitter. Fantastic artist, first of all, just incredibly talented artist. Definitely. Period. Also, just someone who I love, and did a fantastic job on the cover art and all the internal art and the sort of group pictures with the pre-generated characters I made for the one shot that I included in the book. Yeah, incredibly talented artist.
Yeah, I loved the iconography with the tropes, and the cover has such beautiful coloring on it. I absolutely love that. I printed it out, but my printer is also out of color, but you can see it in our promotional image. Yeah, so when it comes down to, I'm trying to remember the point that I had a second ago. I was talking about subverting expectations, not judging a book by its cover. That's right. So this isn't just, it can absolutely be a game where you're playing Major League Baseball, professional baseball, but one of the first things it even says in the book is you don't need to know anything about baseball. You barely need to know about anything about TTRPGs. You don't even know anything about anime or manga. This is just a fun game. You're given the rules, and you can kind of actually learn about baseball in a lot of ways. You provide a glossary at the back, which I think is amazing for a lot of baseball terms. But you don't have to be an expert. You don't even have to be a fan of baseball to play this game, and you might find yourself becoming a fan while you play it. But yeah, you don't have to play a professional baseball game. It actually suggests, I think, early on that, this is kind of like meant for high school, like high school baseball games, or even college, and having the external parts, not like the game is just a part of your life. The rest of your life also impacts it as well. So yeah, when people kind of look and say, oh, baseball TTRPG, they think they already know what they're going to get, but having read it, not at all. No, you're getting so much more out of it. And I definitely want to talk about mechanics and all that kind of stuff as well. Let's see, where do we want to start? So this is, let's actually get into the game a little bit. This is a game that does have a GM, which I believe is called the Umpire.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It felt clever, and it still feels clever, and I'm still very proud
of it. It is. It's very good. So for an umpire, what do responsibilities kind of look like for a game master as far as running this game?
So it's nothing too intense or crazy, I would say. As a game master, obviously your responsibility is to create the story that the players are going to play through, and the big part of that for you, the big bulk of your work in this one, is just creating other teams, creating the teams that you're going to go up against. In the game, I do encourage groups and the GM, the umpire, and the group playing at the table to kind of build the school and their setting together. That was something that I really liked about a game on Kids on Bikes, where you kind of create your setting, create your city, create your hometown kind of all together. And I was like, that's really good. let me just apply that to creating your high school baseball team, because most sports anime are high school sports. I mean, that's what it is. That's the most common sort of era that you see
Right.
in all of these. So I'm like, okay, great. I can apply this to just a school. You can create the town. The sort of generic team that I have is from Seattle, just a fake team, the Elmwood Treants. Uh, just showing a little bit of my nerd there. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I do love that, absolutely, building the team mascot, because I think a lot of people would be attracted just to that. You get to build your team's colors, what they look, the mascot, all that kind of stuff. Go down to your local like high school game store and get baseball shirts made. They're not that expensive.
they're
Go
not.
do it. It's yeah,
I
have
was
a fun time
actually
with it.
I was actually gonna have some for the Kickstarter. There were some jerseys as part of like the highest tier. I was very
Nice.
excited about them.
Yeah.
We obviously did not succeed on our Kickstarter. We fell very short, and
Yeah.
that was demoralizing. Almost killed the whole game altogether for me. Almost gave up on designing TTRPGs as a whole at that time. I was very depressed after the Kickstarter. Not just because it failed, but there was a lot of things that happened with the Kickstarter that just did not feel good. And
Yeah.
then, but with the game itself, the GM, back to the Empire. You can build your school in whatever city, whatever country, wherever you want. Like if you and your friends are not Americans, that's fine. Baseball is big elsewhere in the world. The World
Yeah.
Baseball Classic is proof enough of that. A lot of feelings on that, by the way, but it's the perfect example of just how fun and exciting and magical and emotional and passionate baseball can be. And if anyone doesn't feel that way about it, then they're wrong. Whatever, the World Cup's proof that like these global events in sports are significant. When 50% of the households in your country are watching that game, you kind of get the sense that this is important. So baseball, good. But the GM, the GM just kind of has to make teams and then manage the sort of relationship elements that people build into their characters. Like, what is your character doing? Are they just a superstar athlete who has no challenges off the field and is like just gonna go and succeed in life? That's fine. It's boring, but it's fine if that's the character you want to play. But the cool thing about anime is every character has some sort of conflict. Maybe you're a great player who has a rival who is just better than you, and you can't overcome it. A lot of the times, those great players, their rival is their older sibling who is at a different school or on a different team and is like great and getting all this praise, and that younger sibling is constantly trying to overcome their rival, the person they're constantly being measured against, even if everything
Yeah.
else in their life is going fine. So being the GM, being the umpire, it's on you to kind of take the elements that your players are creating, like, hey, me and this person are best friends, me and this person are best friends, this is my rival. As you're building your character, those are things for the players to think about. But as GM, you just have to manage those narrative elements, and then you have to put the opposing teams on the field. Like if your group is like, yeah, we go to this school, this is our rival school, and my character has a rival who is this great athlete and they play for that school, so we'd like to maybe face them in the championship if we can get there, or maybe that's how we end our season, even if we're having like a bad season. And then it's on you as the GM to incorporate that person's rival into that team, and to create characters on that opposing team that might come up later, that might just be like really talented players in the country that you're in. Like maybe this is a top team, or maybe it's not a top team, but they have one star player who's compelling enough to kind of maybe you start looking deeper into what happens when all these players graduate. do they continue playing? Do they do this? Like, it can handle life after baseball, which is
Yeah.
a question that, not to quote Moneyball, but at some point we're all told we can no longer play the children's game and we have to grow up. That's a real thing. And there's a lot of people who can't answer that question when they get told they can't do it anymore. And the big thing is, as the GM, you have to sort of facilitate those things. And that's true for any TTRPG. Your job's not any different. It might be a little bit less chaotic because you're not dealing with, the orcs who killed this person's entire family and sent them on a quest for revenge that has then turned into something else in like a big fantasy TTRPG, and you got to create the
Well,
faction that did that and all that. But
maybe you are.
maybe
you're
you
playing
are.
those
Yeah,
orcs. Yeah.
you very well could. Like, you can just make this a fantasy baseball thing where you're playing a bunch of, fantasy characters. There's no like there's no like races or ancestries or anything to build your characters off of. So you can do whatever. You can just take play ball, throw it into your D&D or Pathfinder setting as just a thing going on in the world and do whatever. You can reskin it to be Twilight. That is a relatively simple thing to do if you're the GM. You can.
We did have a question. I'm glad we're addressing this now. So yes, we did have a question from our producer today, Kayla. Can this be reskinned to have a Twilight baseball game? So yes, please. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to make sure we were addressing that.
100%. The main thing about like the sort of super powered abilities that you have in all your different character tropes, those are just mainly like dice rolls. They just kind of apply to the actions that you're taking. You can change all the wording and do whatever you want to it. But if you're like, we're vampires and we're specifically the Cullen family from Twilight, you can just do that. You can say, you know what, since we're vampires and we're the Cullen family, we just add +5 to whatever we roll. Period.
There
Full
you go.
stop.
Yeah.
Because they were clearly using super vampire abilities there. You can just
you
do
still
that.
need your Bella, but absolutely, you can just do that.
Yeah. And that's your teammates. They don't have special powers. You can literally just be 4 really that could be your reason for why you're better than everyone else on your team, why you're the main characters, because you're vampires who have like superpower abilities. Like that is play ball will literally just fit that, just as written, rules as written. You can just do that. You just say you're vampires, and that's why you're the main characters.
This is something I wanted to talk about because this is something I absolutely love about play ball and games like play ball. We earlier for our last Sword and Tea, we're talking about a lycanthrope game. And the thing that kind of binds them is they are fantastic standalone games. If you want to play a baseball TTRPG that has those emotional aspects and those social aspects to them, amazing. If you want to take this rule set and plug it into an already existing game, which I personally love to do, if you have a Pathfinder game, a D&D, a Monster of the Week, and you want to have a baseball aspect to it, you can take these rules and plug them right into it. So yeah, have your Monster of the Week crew who are playing baseball against the Loch Ness Monster and Mothman. Have your D&D group absolutely getting revenge against the orcs that slaughtered your hometown, and they just so happen to have an amazing pitcher. You can absolutely plug this stuff in. And even when you're talking about that, I mean, there's superhero games where you have to like hide your superpowers and plugging these rules in. So there's again to subvert maybe the expectations of, it's a baseball TTRPG. I don't know anything about baseball. You don't have to know shit about baseball. You don't have to know shit about shit. You can put this wherever you want and add a really cool sports mechanic, a unique sports mechanic, where you earlier wouldn't have one and would have been scratching your brain and going, I don't know, we'll make it like a roll or whatever. It's an athletics roll. No, take this. It's better. Just as someone who's read through it and already got, I love getting inspired by ideas from reading rule books like this.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing for play ball for me. I wanted it to be easily adaptable to anything else. Anything that I wanted to adapt it to later, if I wanted to add, because I plan on adding. I'm currently working on other sports. Like I've been working on a high school football anime one for a while. That one's a lot tougher because of just various different design challenges there. But the reality of it is like I don't care what you do with play ball. You want to take the mechanics, throw it in your cyberpunk game, go for it.
Oh,
I
that'd
think
be
that's
very good.
awesome. I want you to do whatever fits. Like you if you're a GM running some other game and you because I've talked about putting like I put sports in my fantasy settings, like in my D&D games and stuff all the time, like because that's fun. It's just a cool, fun part of the world. Why wouldn't they have some sort of
Why
sport
wouldn't they? Yeah.
other than a just random fighting pit in every single city that you create? Like that's cool. Those fighting pits are important because money can be made and people can die and you can create all sorts of extra stories when you really need them in those fighting pits. That's why I include them in every single city that I create in a fantasy setting. But that doesn't have to be the only like sport
Yeah,
that
sports
you
go
that you
back
have in
way,
a
way
fantasy
longer
setting.
than people think. I mean, sports were getting outlawed at certain points in history because
Yeah.
the king was like, "We need to go to war. Stop playing around." Like golf got banned twice in Scotland. Soccer was created in China. You have all these sports that existed, at least 1,000, if not longer, years before people think like, "Oh, baseball's a modern thing, like the
The
1900s." And no,
baseball's been around since early in the 1800s.
yeah, yeah.
And like during one of the world wars, a lot of the pro baseball players went and fought in the war, which is why the All American Girls Baseball Association, or whatever, as
Yeah, World War
famously
II's
known,
League of Their Own. Yeah,
yeah, a league of their own. Like that's a thing that actually that wasn't just a Tom Hanks movie and an amazing show on Amazon Prime that is
yeah,
incredibly as gay as the movie should have been.
yeah. For having Rosie O'Donnell in it, you would have thought. Yeah,
Well, Rosie O'Donnell, super gay in
right. Yeah,
the Amazon Prime show. For the record, not to spoil anything, it's not really a spoiler. The second the character comes on screen, you're like, oh, gay.
they're not just roommates. Yeah,
Exactly. And so funny because that is a line in that. But like, there's so many different points in history where baseball was such a significant thing, and you can just throw that into any history that you've created for your tabletop game. You can be like, they've always played baseball in this city in the stars or whatever, and it's this cool like space dome built on like the dark side of a moon, so it's got this special like heating thing, and then it's just a glass dome, but every time you hit a home run it just kind of goes through like a port into orbit or something. Like you can do, or it's like a bubble where the ball is the only thing that can go out so that you don't like get sucked
sure.
into the void of space, like some sort of just magic bubble, because that's a thing. Magic is real in whatever setting you want it to be, and like you can just do that. And play ball, you don't have to create any new mechanics. You can adjust and rewrite any of the mechanics that you want. I'm not going to take it personally. You can just
In fact, I believe you have something in here that literally says "break the rules." It is encouraged
yeah
to manufacture this to however it works best.
yeah I said, hey, break the rules, do whatever you want, like change this to fit your needs as needed. And that is something that I genuinely believe in as a designer. Like, how much homebrew exists in the world? Encourage it. I
Yeah,
encourage people to like take my game, add on to it, do whatever they want to do, fit it into whatever mold they need to fit it in. And if I was able to give you the skeleton for whatever you create with it, great. I mean, obviously don't like create a whole new game that includes my mechanics in it and then, you know,
And
try
then
and
not credit,
take
not pay.
credit,
Yeah,
take
yeah.
credit for them.
Don't be an asshole.
But use it in your games and like, you know, do whatever. Like I hope you enjoy the game. I want people to play it. I want people to enjoy it. Like why else would I have made the game if I didn't want other people to play it and enjoy it? Like
Yeah.
I'd like to run an actual play with it at some point as the person who created it, and I promise you I will break the rules I'm the one who created the game, and I will absolutely break the rules if it makes sense. Like I'll break my own rules, and if you need me to break those rules for you, I'll do it, but do whatever you want. Like that's how I live in TTRPGs. Like famously said in Pirates of the Caribbean, all the movie quotes today, you know, the rules are kind of just guidelines. They're not actually rules like the pirate code. Like it's more like a suggestion. And I think that's cool. I think that's what's cool about games in general. Like how many times have you climbed a mountain in an RPG in like a video game that you probably shouldn't have been able to climb, that you then just like jumped over and then fell over the other side and were like, that was worth it. I got all the way over this like incredibly tall peak. For example, Skyrim. How many mountain sides are you just not supposed to be able to climb up with this horse? And you do it. You do it anyway.
Yeah, you might go clipping off into nothing, but it's rewarding.
Game rules are made to be broken. Like that's why rules exist.
Horses shouldn't be able to climb at that angle. If you didn't want me to do this, you would have coded this better. Well, Robin, I did want to say, because Eva literally messaged me from where she is. You are more than welcome to run an AP on Sword and Key. We would love to have Play Ball featured here, just to make that a blatant statement where everybody can hear. Yes, that would be absolutely incredible. We're going to go to a break shortly. I did want to just touch on one last thing. Yes, breaking the rules, reskinning stuff. I mean, reskin it to make cricket somehow work. Don't worry about wickets. Cricket is basically baseball. It's just got a bigger bat.
I don't know anything about cricket, but I can do it.
It's like there's bowling and wickets and all sorts of stuff. I don't understand it either.
I know those terms. I don't know the rules.
Yeah, they wear like wide-brimmed hats sometimes. It's very confusing. But hey, very popular in India. So if you make baseball and
one of the most popular sports in the world.
Yeah, it's I think it's second or third. After soccer,
and then cricket, and honestly, baseball probably not far behind.
I was looking it up just to see where baseball was landing. Depending on who you ask, it's between like 6 and 8 in the top 10.
Makes sense.
Yeah, not dead last by far. I mean, because basketball has that weird popularity in the Eastern European area.
It's the third most popular sport in America. I know that. Because you have football, you have basketball, you have baseball, and then you have hockey. But sometimes hockey is higher than baseball.
Hockey, yeah.
Love hockey.
Love hockey.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, that's the best part about living near Seattle is Seattle Krakens. I've yet to get any Mariners stuff. I know the Mariners were kind of a decent deal last season, but
Mariners were very good last year, actually.
There was a bunch of stuff down.
It is a shame they didn't make the playoffs, but they will this year. I'm rooting for you, Mariners, as long as it doesn't hurt the Cubs, which it won't, because we're in different leagues.
Yeah,
it's fine. I know a lot about sports, guys. I'm sorry, I'm a huge nerd, but I also love sports.
No, I will say, being a nerd, you can be a nerd about like fantasy, Magic the Gathering, you know, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. You can be a nerd about sports. They are the same nerd. They just have different focuses, and then you can meld them together, as you wonderfully did here. But absolutely, I know for a fact you know more about sports and baseball than I do, and especially anime as well. So I am doing my best to keep up with you on this one. I did want to mention, of course, there's plenty of other like baseball-esque sports. Like in Futurama, there's Blurns Ball. So yeah, reskin it to whatever you want. Make your fantasy baseball, make your sci-fi baseball. It can all work.
And tell me what you reskinned it to, please. I want to know. Yeah. I want to know how I want to see just how well can you break the game that I wrote better than I can? Doubt it, but I'd like to see you try.
Because one of my favorite things are setting agnostic games like Play Ball. And we're going to talk more about Play Ball, including character creation, how the game is played, and also I'm going to ask Robin what her favorite baseball movie is, all when we come back. So we're going to take about 10 to 15. Stick around. If you have questions for Robin about Play Ball, about anything, be respectful, of course, you can place those in the Twitch chat, and we'll be happy to address those. Or if you are in our Discord, you can post them over there as well. But stick around, we'll be back in about 10 to 15. Welcome back to Sword and Tea, everyone. I am Derek Sword. I use he, him pronouns. I am your host for today. I have switched over, in fact, like I said, to Mistress Gray from Friday Teas. Highly recommend Friday Teas. They're not a sponsor yet, fingers crossed. Maybe we'll even get a Sword and Tea over there. Who knows? But definitely check them out. That'll be his company that has tons of nerdy-based teas and is absolutely phenomenal. And I am sitting with Robin Caulfield, who is the creator of Play Ball, which is a baseball anime manga TTRPG, which we have had a lot of fun chatting about so far. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty and rules of stuff. But before all of that, I have a non-relevant, somewhat relevant question, which is, what is we've talked your background with a lot of media that's led to Play Ball. So what is your favorite live action? I guess it doesn't have to be live action, but what is your favorite baseball movie? I guess it could be an anime. I know a lot of people brought up stuff like Yuri on Ice and things like that when it comes to sports anime. A lot of people have come in that way, but yeah, favorite baseball movie.
See, I was hoping this question wouldn't ever come up in my life ever again. Here's the thing about baseball movies. There's a ton, and there's a lot. Yeah, they're all really good. Excuse me.
You're good.
Here's the thing. I was when you mentioned that before the break, I thought it was maybe going to be at the end of this, and
no, not at all. I'm sorry.
I started thinking about it immediately, and I was like, I can probably figure something out here, and I just can't. I couldn't. Here's the thing. Field of Dreams is an easy choice. Yes. League of Their Own, another really easy choice. Neither of those I would say they're in my top 5. I wouldn't put them at the top.
Oscar winners, if not Oscar nominees. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I've mentioned it a couple times. Moneyball, also in my top 5. Sure, that one is honestly pretty up there. That one might even be in just my top 3. I would probably also put A League of Their Own in my top 3. For a while, it was my favorite, but it could have been gayer and more authentic, and that's why it's not my favorite. No. It's still a great baseball movie, if not an inaccurate portrayal of what that league and those women actually were and doing, and that's a shame because it could have been a lot better for.
Yeah, if I remember right, the character that Gina Davis portrayed did come out as queer. So yeah, I feel like the movie unfortunately was saddled by the issues of the time, and nobody would watch this movie or like this movie, even if we put Tom Hanks in it. And I think that's bullshit. So
yeah. And man, Bull Durham's a really, really good one.
Yeah. I can give mine if it's gonna help you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm a big Kevin Costner fan. That might be weird, but
the dude is a sports movie legend.
He is.
Every love of the game.
Yeah, love of the game. It's pretty good. But being from Ohio, I didn't even live near Cleveland. I actually hate the city of Cleveland. I think it's trash. But Major League makes you appreciate Cleveland.
Man, Major League is so good.
Right, it's like peak Charlie Sheen, and just everything about it is so great. 80s comedy, and yeah, And I even noticed the spiky hair in one of the tropes very very much gave me the vibe of like Charlie Sheen's character in that movie.
Yeah, listen, Major League is fantastic. I part of me wants to say Sandlot because
Yo, yeah.
growing up, like that was the dream, that was the goal. Like Sandlot was fantastic.
Yeah, baseball movies don't have to be professional. That's an amazing point. Yeah.
Yeah, and 42 with Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson was a really good one as well.
Yeah.
And I literally had to look up for a second because there's so many going through my head just to get a list, because I just looked up an article of just baseball movies, and I'm going through this and I'm like, there's some of these that I would not put anywhere close to like the top of my list, but I'm seeing like Bad News Bears, Sandlot, 42, all great baseball movies. I gotta say, man, I'm right now for Love of the Game is really good. I'm leaning towards Field of Dreams is a really good one.
It's so good. Yeah.
Fever Pitch is a good movie, if not problematic.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's I just saw someone in chat mention it, so I was like, oh yeah, no, that is a good baseball movie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I wouldn't put it in my top 10, but I think it's a good one. But I'd put it's tough because I really liked Bull Durham. I really liked The Natural. I really like Bad News Bears. I wouldn't put Bad News Bears even in my top 10 though. Like I think Sandlot did the younger kids baseball movie better. And
I think something you could say about the two is Bad News Bears was able to be remade. I don't think you could ever fully successfully remake the Sandlot.
They tried.
They tried
to reboot it. It didn't work.
Yeah. You can't recreate what those kids did.
No. Sandlot, in very much the vibe of The Goonies, is a movie that you cannot replicate. It just had something else. The whole like trilogy, like the original trilogy for the Sandlot, like those movies were great. They got progressively worse. I liked the second one a lot. The Sandlot Heading Home, didn't love that one, although because it had like the weird like time travel element to it, which was just kind of strange. I still liked it, but it wasn't as good. But Sandlot, 42 was really good. I don't know if it was good enough for me to say that it is my favorite, but I liked it a lot. Like, it's in my top 5 for sure.
Solid.
Every time someone asks me this question, my answer changes though. Like, let me be perfectly clear. And my top 5 and my top 3 and they all change every time.
Just rotate around. Eventually you'll get to like Mr. 3000 and people are like, wait, I'm sorry. The Bernie Mac one? Yeah.
I mean, listen, Mr. 3000 was like not a terrible it wasn't like good.
It wasn't the worst baseball movie, but like I said, there's a lot of baseball movies.
Rookie of the Year and Rookie of the Year, the kid like breaks his shoulder playing like Pee-wee and then can throw like 90 something, so he gets to play in the pros. And Little that one, Rookie of the Year and Little Big League are two of my just all-time favorites, because Little Big League, you just get the kid whose grandpa dies, so he inherits the Minnesota Twins, and then just
Angels in the Outfield.
I had that one on VHS tape. I watched that thing till the wheels fell off. Someone mentioned it in chat, but Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, the Disney Channel movie. Yes. I love that one because I love cooking competitions and cooking in general, but I hate Bobby Flay. So that movie loses points because Bobby Flay is just in it. But that's a really good one. Like, here's the thing about baseball movies. They're all good because baseball rules, and it's just, yes, because of what baseball is as a sport, because of how long it is and how much the games drag on at times, you have to fill those movies with something else. Like a football movie, you'll see a lot of it happen on the field or, whatever. But like a baseball movie will be just a lot of nonsense and mischief, and there will be the hecklers in the crowd, and someone will always get hit in the face with the baseball and go tumbling over like the bench or whatever. It'll happen in every single one of them. A bat will go flying into the dugout, and someone will duck and be like, "Whoa!" And it happens in all of them. That's why tropes exist. That's why I put tropes in Play Ball. Little Big League,
you and I,
Rookie of the Year, Sandlot, like those movies as a kid, they were so impressionable on me and it really just helped my love of baseball. But I'd put Sandlot probably number one right now. Just final answer, locking it in. But I'd probably put at this very second Bull Durham pretty close behind. I also like The Rookie. The Rookie was really good too.
I think deep down we both know that the true answer, the greatest baseball film ever made, was the fourth in the Air Bud series. Air Bud was Seventh Inning Fetch.
Don't listen. I loved the Air Bud movies.
They're great for a reason.
That is the worst one.
They gave the dog a bat.
That is the worst one. Air Bud was great with the basketball and the football. But the baseball, it wasn't good enough. But,
fair enough.
It was still good. It was all still good.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Play Ball, the game you made. The reason why we're here is as now we have solidified the best baseball movie. Let's talk a little bit about character creation, because this is, I think it's a very interesting concept you had for character creation. You have pre-generated characters in this module. I will also say, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, I did print this out. I have no color in my printer, but yes, you can get Play Ball for $10. The link is in our tweet, and hopefully my producer can put that in chat as well. But yes, actually, I think it was even on sale yesterday for like $8.80 or something like that. But very, very affordable game and very fun game. So I highly recommend you stop on by to Itch and picking that up. But yes, let's talk about character creation. So looking at a standard game, it says about 3 to 5 players. Can support 2 to 10, but 3 to 5 is that sweet spot. Love that. We've already talked about the umpire, their duties as the game master, and then at least 2 player characters. So going step by step through character creation here. Let's start with stats. So you've got 2 like stat categories. Tell me a little bit about how stats work for this game.
So there's only 4 stats. There is so there's the sport and the social stats. I opened the game for this exact reason, and then I minimized it and forgot the game that I made. Forgot just the rules.
Actually, this is something else I meant to mention earlier. You spent how many years working on this game?
So I spent 48 hours initially, just start to finish, wrote the whole thing, and then I spent 2 years perfecting it.
So 2 years of your brain dumped into this. I don't blame you for literally just like deleting all those files once you had committed them to documentation.
I have all those files sitting in my Google Drive. It's great. I will probably never look at them again now that I've got the PDF. Because the PDF is so pretty. Shout out to the DM Sarah, the _DM_ Sarah with an H on Twitter. Was my DM for EN Publishing's Starcross Seaways that we did last year. Did all of the layout in the book and did just a really incredible job. When I saw it kind of just coming to life after I just sort of sent this document off into the ether, waiting to see what happened with this baby that I cultivated for years, the sort of end result was so incredible. I was ready to cry. Um, but yeah, no. The stats you have, style and study, which are your two social stats. Essentially, it's like vibes and brains, like just like personality or effort, like what comes natural, what. So there's like the style, which is just like a main social stat for like, oh, your charisma level essentially, that you can use in all your social interactions that involve you like trying to impress someone or persuade someone. And then study, of course, like for stuff more rooted in the classroom, because the game is built just kind of initially for high school or college, mainly high school, but college, it's an easy like plug and play. Even younger, like I'm working on a module, a tournament arc, of course, and then also to kind of adjust it to a pro level, and then also to a T-ball level.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of Sword and TTRPGs, and T-ball potentially, to bring it back to your intro. Uh, that being said, you also then have skill and strategy. So like the things that you've actually like spent the time practicing, you know, maybe skill and strategy, just tactics. Tactics are a big part, like knowing when to apply the shift to a hitter is a big thing in baseball, and you know, knowing when to, you know, pull someone, or you know, throw out the lefty pitcher instead of the righty against, you know, whatever matchup. Like all of that is strategy. There's plenty of strategy thrown in there. These stats, you get you get a couple of points to just kind of apply initially. You have 4 points to allocate into any given stat, just, you know, in each category. So you get 4 for social and 4 for sports. So it's not just 4 across 4 skills. And you can choose to just do like 2 and 2, or you can do, you know, 3 and 1, or just 4 and 0, and you'll add those stats based on, you know, whatever the situation is to whatever role. But your position trope, your character trope, does give you a bonus on 1 or 2 stats. Some of them are +1/+1. Some of them are just straight up +2. Some of them might even be a +2 and a +1. Most of the time, you get to choose which skill you can apply to whatever situation. But there are certain situations on field that will require a strategy roll versus instead of a skill roll, and vice versa.
Right.
But the main thing is the stats aren't that important. The sort of challenge DCs and stuff mechanically aren't ever like too high. But yeah, there's 4 tiny skills. They're easy to manage. You don't get like lost trying to keep track of which ability check takes what skill modifier in what situation, and advantage and disadvantage and stuff like that. There's just 4 skills. It's like, hey, just make a skill roll, or make a strategy roll, or study, or style, or whatever applies most, or mechanically speaking. And as the umpire, you can just say at any point during the game, like, hey, this is the situation in the game narratively, use this roll in particular. Like, I want you to use a strategy roll because it's late, you don't want to blow it, and even though you've got like a +3 to skill and like a +1 to strategy, I want you to roll strategy, because your skill, you can only get so far here in like late in a championship game. Like, everyone's kind of at the same skill level, so why don't you go ahead and just roll like add your strategy here instead. And it's like, did you put anything else into strategy? Did you take a class that helped boost that? Like, were you worried about min-maxing? Were you like, I can just always roll skill and never have to roll strategy, and think you could get away with that? Which, you know, you can let people get away with that as the umpire if you want. You can also, you know, twist the knife a little bit and be a little cheeky and be like, no, this is an important moment in the game. Like, you have to be aware of what you're doing. That's all strategy. Like, are you making the right throw? Strategy right now. Let's go. dice on the table. But yeah,
Yeah,
as far
again,
as
I
like the
don't think
stats go,
it's
yeah.
it. I don't think it's just about like you said. It's not just about skill. I mean, this game very much. What I like about this is it's the first step towards what is already a trope heavy game. What is meant to be a trope heavy game. Are you just bludgeoning the ball every single time, or do you know when to bunt? Are you just throwing the same ball every single time as a pitcher, or are you switching it up depending on who's batting against you? Yeah, I absolutely love that, because you will have your bruisers, you'll have the people who are just putting all their stuff into skill, and then you'll have the people who are thinking it out. And again, inspiring ideas from this. I also love, like, maybe you're taking a geometry class and that helps you with your conceptualization of like how the ball moves through the air, and that will then bump your skill in either strategy or study. You can use your study to boost this. Yeah, absolutely, I love that concept.
There's a mechanic as part of just in general, and I don't touch on it a lot in the book because it's a very vague mechanic for a reason. But there's a momentum mechanic on the character sheet. You have a little box, you can tick it. It essentially works like inspiration in D&D. Like you can use this momentum based on something you do narratively. It can be awarded to you, and you can use that to then do something cool. Like you get to re-roll or roll with advantage or do whatever. The umpire can change it, be like, hey, we're going to use momentum, like you can just automatically succeed in this moment, or you can use this to do this in this moment. But like if you actively choose, like instead of using my +4 to skill, I'm going to use my like +0 to strategy in this moment, because that feels more appropriate for my character right now. Like this is an aspect that maybe I put the time into off screen, and like I want to do this, and maybe the umpire rewards that courage to maybe not take your highest possible result and instead make the decision to challenge yourself in character and out of character, and awards you with momentum that'll make things a little bit easier the next time you try to do that. And I think that's a mechanic that lets you sort of plug and play with the stats and do kind of whatever, and you can always boost them however you deem appropriate. Like if you have an umpire who's like, you know what, you guys passed your midterms, everyone gets a +1 to study and strategy as a result going into this next game, you can do that. I didn't put that in the book, and maybe retroactively I should have. And I can always update the PDF and just tell you all to re-download it, and I'll see what happens. But you can do it. You can do whatever you want. That's why I said break the rules. Do whatever you want with this game in the book. That's why that is written. Rules is written. Break the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Use those outside factors to impact your character. And yeah, I get emails all the time about, oh, this thing you downloaded got updated on such and such. So yeah, people are always updating their stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, so we have our skills, our the social and sports skills that then broke down into style study, strategy, and skill. What comes next is picking where you're playing, correct?
Yes. So you have three. So there's 9 positions in baseball. You have pitcher, first, second, third. All those positions, which I do go into detail and break down in the book. For those of you who have never played before, I break down what each position is. For pitchers, I even using the handy dandy tool from Major League Baseball was able to kind of write down exactly what all of these different pitch types were for pitchers, in case you wanted to get really creative. Like, hey, maybe you focus on a fastball or a knuckleball or a curveball or a slurve or a slider. All these different things. You don't have
all
to.
The terminology of which is in the glossary. I cannot emphasize how accessible you made this.
Yeah,
it is fantastic.
I understand that even people who are like a fan of baseball don't necessarily know anything about what's actually happening. And
we all just go for the overpriced beer. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to accommodate, and the main thing during character creation is you pick if you want to be a pitcher, if you want to be infield, or if you want to be outfield, rather than breaking down like which specific position in the outfield you want to play. You can do that. You can flavor that. That's an important part of whatever, but those won't have any impact on your abilities or your skills. It's just infielders have certain skills, outfielders have different skills, pitchers have different ones, and they're all based on kind of just common archetypes of players that you'll see in real life in some of those little sections. So just as an example, the pitchers, you have the true ace who gets a +1 and a +1, while every other pitcher class just gets a single +1 in any given skill. But each class has each position trope has a primary ability that you can use once per game, and a secondary ability that you can use 3 times per game. The true ace, their once per game ability is they can turn a hit that would have scored into just a fly ball out. Just that doesn't actually score a run. That person's actually out now. And then you can like play out if the runners tag up and still try and score anyway as the umpire. Like you can do that. You can also just let it end there.
So is a lot of that based on the umpire doing dice rolls to determine kind of where things land? Is this more where they could do that, or they could also just determine based on like the flow of the game and trying to create a level of stakes to it? What does your ideal situation for that look like?
So as far as the abilities go, you can use those as a player whenever you want. You can, say, hey, I'd like to use this ability now after an outcome has been decided. While playing, so you have your at-bat phase, your live ball phase, which are the 2 phases where things are actually in play. The dugout phase is there's nothing happening on the field. You're just kind of role-playing in the dugout at that time. So the key here is there are some abilities that can only be used during one phase or another, and those are specified in the abilities themselves. There's not very many because it's kind of unnecessary to do all that. Most of the time, they're going to be used in between the at-bat and live ball phase to prevent the phase of play going from at-bat to live ball in the first place. A lot of them are out-based or, guaranteed hits or this or that. So the umpire controls the opposing team, and the players, the PCs, they control their team. They control their own characters, and they'll just kind of roll the dice for their teammates. You can change that if you want. If you want the umpire to just kind of simulate and be like, okay, this is a scenario that we're in now, like 3 innings later or 4 innings later, you can do that. There's obviously the alternative form of gameplay, but you can adjust to those 2 forms of gameplay or mix them together however you choose.
Crunch optional, sure.
Yeah, but in the crunchy peanut butter of it all, in the at-bat phase, it's a lot of opposing dice rolls. The hitter and the pitcher. It's a contested dice roll. They each declare which stat they'll add, skill or strategy, to a d12. And then when you're creating an opposing team, you essentially, and I did put a suggestion, but you don't actually have to follow it. But essentially, where hitters are in the lineup, you get a +2 or a +3 or a +1, because where hitters are placed in the lineup is a real thing in baseball. Like your 3, 4, 5, they're considered the heart of your lineup. Like, that's why the 3 hitter is technically supposed to be your best hitter, but the 4 hitter is like your power hitter or like the cleanup. So there's a whole thing, like, do you put your best hitter in your 3rd or your 4th spot? Usually it's the 3rd because of a million different reasons.
Again, it's the strategy of it. Are you going to put the guy that hits a home run every time when the bases are empty or when the bases are loaded? Absolutely.
Yeah. And you never know when said person in whichever lineup spot will show up and be in like at the plate in such a big important moment. But if you're in the 7, 8, or 9 spot, you get a +1 if you're the umpire controlling an opposing player, or even if it's your own team members who are in those other spots, because the umpire also controls the character's coach, the person setting the lineup, and based on what happens narratively, or even just based on the luck of dice rolls, maybe your own players end up shifted around in the lineup, even though they're main characters. Maybe you're not the leadoff hitter. Maybe you were the number 3, but you've slipped to the 6th spot, which is a relegation of some kind. It is a demotion because you were the best hitter. Now you're not. Maybe one of your own teammates is now the number 3. You never know. Maybe their dice are just rolling better, so the coach decided to put them there. But it's just a straight up D12 plus whatever is added to then determine if it's a hit or a strikeout. I don't go through like, oh, you do this 3 times, or you do this until you get 3 strikes or 4 balls. You do this, and then there's other aspects, like if the ball is put in play, you roll a d4. It'll be a foul, a walk, or a hit. The hit is the more likely of the two. There's a 50% chance you get a hit. There's a 75% chance you end up on base. And a 25% chance you have to re-roll the contested dice roll. Because a 1 is a foul, a 2 is a walk, and a 3 or a 4 is a hit. So the walk is good. You get on base. You just don't get any extra bases. You don't have to do any extra dice rolls. The foul, you just re-roll and then do the phases again. Well, with the foul, you might get out. It might go out of play if you're lucky, or the opposing team might have a shot at making a play. But the idea is to put balls in play, which is exactly what professional baseball tries to do. They do everything they can to make it so that there are more balls in play, so that there's more action happening, and it's more entertaining for the people watching. It's also more entertaining for the people playing, even if it is the opposing team, to just sort of go through these dice rolls and decide like what happens. And then that's in the crunchy side of things. In the alternative style of play, because like I've mentioned a couple times now, there are 2 styles of play in the game, which is really important to me. I wanted to make it like crunchy for people who enjoy baseball and enjoy dice rolls and enjoy a little bit of crunch, and then I wanted to make it so that you could literally just bring your friends together, you roll a couple times, you each roll just a straight up D20 contested roll, and then the umpire kind of leads through the narrative and like creates obstacles and challenges, and kind of has to be a little more creative than maybe in the chance based crunchy element, the style of play. Because a lot of that, the entirety of the game is dependent on the dice rolls. You go through, you get the outs, and then you play through however many innings you want to play through. Maybe you're playing in a setting where you only play 6 or 7 innings. Maybe you play all 9, which I suggest you have one session that is purely not in a game, and then the games will take up about 1 of the 2 to 3 hour recommended or expected time for a session. Like you have a whole narrative episode, and then you have the sporty episode, which is the anime side of it all.
Yeah, for those of us who might be familiar with especially a game like D&D 5e, where combat takes that large chunk of your session, try to conceptualize that out. You definitely want your time for role play, and it does sound like, even though you do have the crunch, the not so crunch, I do really want to shout out how accessible you've made the crunch, where again you're not rolling 3 times, you're rolling once. You have these chances added to it. Even when it comes to like the player position, you've taken 9 positions and very tactfully simplified it down to 3, and you're making these simplifications where you could have easily made this just 1 dice roll after another, and I really want to shout out how streamlined this does feel. Yeah, it's going to take time, but so does a baseball game.
Yeah.
You are taking the time to kind of roll out, and you're adding that level of stakes to it as you're playing through. So yeah, and putting the strategy in and everything, it's great. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I wanted to make the game accessible because I knew this is it's a sports anime TTRPG. That's how I describe it. But also it uses baseball as the medium to tell the story. And that is not a I'm well aware that that's not the most popular choice I could have made. I could have made a lot of other choices sports wise, but it's the only one that like made the most sense. It seemed like mechanically the easiest, because I was really just assigning a dice roll to a variable and trying like I broke it down where when you're actually like when you actually get a hit, you determine where on the field it's going. You determine the type of hit, whether it's a line drive, a fly ball, a ground ball. I have you have to roll like back to back tens on 2d10 rolls after you get a hit to actually hit a home run, which is a rare thing. And I like to make that a little challenging. There's plenty of abilities that'll let you just clobber it and hit a home run, but it's more fun this way. There's a little bit of a gamble involved, but it's risk-free gambling, so I don't like to, but it's all chance, it's all luck. Like you can't
Yeah,
just roll one really good dice roll. You have to roll a few because there's a lot of different factors. But also like you can roll badly and like potentially ground ball into a bad situation, and the defense, like the other team, can just really commit an error and drop the ball if they also roll badly. If they roll below a certain threshold, they fumble the ball, and it gives you a chance to still get on base, and it creates that like unique opportunity. But the game will go a lot faster because you're not going through every single pitch. Like
right.
if the umpire rolls three straight like 12s on those like contested D12 rolls, and you and your fellow teammates roll badly, that's three outs in three dice rolls, and you just move on to the dugout phase and then on to the next phase of play, and you're behind the ball there. Or it could go for a while because you could just be scoring a ton of runs, and you can throw a mercy rule in there. That's what happens in high school sports. There's like a 9 or 10 run mercy rule. If you're up by X amount at any
Yeah.
point in the game without the other team getting a chance to come back, like the game ends. um so there's opportunity there's a lot
Yeah.
of options, and there's a lot of ways to make it so it doesn't take too much time. There's a lot of ways to make it take longer if that's what you're into. But making it simplified so that anyone who just didn't really know anything about baseball could uh, pop into a game and
Yeah.
be okay. Like when I say you don't have to know anything about baseball, I mean it. Like I didn't want to just say that and then be a liar. Like I wanted to mean it. I wanted to create this game that is focused on baseball and be true to my word when I say you don't need to know anything about baseball to get started. You'll learn a little bit about baseball, potentially
Yeah.
against your will, but you're choosing to play this game, so I guess it's not necessarily against your will, but you'll learn a little bit. Even as the umpire, you don't have to know anything about baseball. You can run this game without baseball knowledge because I included the glossary, I included all the terms and everything. You might have to look up what some of these terms like actually look like in practice, like in real life, or like where these players are actually positioned on the field if you're trying to get like really deep into it narratively. But I ran a number of one shots for this during the Kickstarter. Most of the people who participated in those one shots knew nothing about baseball.
Yeah.
A few of them did. A few of them were people that were involved in the early like development of the game. Like the reason I made it, it was like, hey, we want to do this thing, so and we're all fans of this, cool. But most of the people were just people that I really enjoyed and really thought were great players. And I have them all up on like my YouTube channel somewhere, and it's there was one it was fully inspired by Kuroko's basketball, and I have it titled "The Generation of Miracles One Shot," and it was so good. And KP, Drac, and Brandy all did such an incredible job as players in that game that I was like, this is what this game can be and what it can do. And, they all had some exposure to anime or TTRPGs or baseball or one of the three or more than one of the three. And they killed it. They crushed it. And that can be your table,
Yeah.
I knew a lot about baseball. I obviously created this game, but even without me, that wouldn't have taken anything away from what those three did. And I think as a game, anyone can tell any kind of story they want with Play Ball. And I think that's really cool. And that was really important to me as a designer when I was making it. I didn't want it to be boxed into just this small idea of what it is and what it could be. It was important for me to make sure that people could do anything they wanted with it. And I really do think you can. You just have to give it a shot.
I fully agree with you. Yeah, I think that a lot of people can be intimidated, especially in the TTRPG nerd space. And I think a lot of that has to do with a level of gatekeeping that does happen in the fandoms of professional sports. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that people don't see that those fandoms are both just groups of nerds. Go to a sports game, and if you see somebody in a jersey with somebody else's name on it, they're cosplaying. I mean, you can't tell me that they're not. That's what it is. They're
Absolutely.
cheering about specific characters that they have in their heads. Is they're not people. They're these heroes. And you can't tell me that you've ever killed a dragon in real life, but you can pretend to do that. If you've never seen a baseball game, you can still pretend to do it. And yeah, I think that hopefully this discussion, and especially any promotion we do about this, will really help promote people. Like, you don't have to be a fan of baseball, but maybe you will be after this, and maybe it will help break down those barriers from gatekeeping, because now you'll kind of know what you're talking about a little bit. You'll be able to appreciate the game a little bit more because you have the words that the other people know. A lot of gatekeeping comes from terminology that they know and you don't, but you've provided that here. You've provided rules. You've provided a way to conceptualize it. Even if they've never stepped a foot onto a base, they have an idea now of how baseball works, and hopefully can appreciate the game a little bit more. And that's what I really like about this, is it is providing a very interesting doorway to a different group of nerds to branch over to another group of nerds. Because that's all that they are. You get a bunch of people at a stadium, those are a bunch of nerds. They're just not cheering for a Marvel movie. They're cheering for a bunch of dudes in tight pants, which is still a Marvel movie.
Sure.
No, okay, please.
100%. And my fiance was like an athletic trainer in high school and partway through college and everything. But as far as like a love of sports goes, my fiance didn't know anything about baseball really when we got together. And I do something that drives my fiance crazy. I love sports. I did sports journalism in college. I spent a good chunk of my life kind of aspiring to be like in sports radio. I did live data analytics for the NWSL and the MLS and Liga MX and a lot of like very impressive professional soccer leagues, and that grew my love of soccer in a lot of ways. And I've obviously been very heavily involved in sports my entire life, and I know that's not the case for everybody. And I know a lot about a lot of sports, and I know a lot about like the history of sports, and I've studied the game, and I play sports video games and like management simulators and everything. And I put like a lot of my life into these things that I love. And it is a shame how some fans in sports will do anything they can to not let their game grow, not let their fan base grow, because they're going to gatekeep it in one way or another. And I understand that deters a lot of people. I think sports fandoms are some of the most toxic fandoms in the world, and I do think it's a huge problem.
Saying a lot coming from TTRPGs too.
Yeah, and I don't think it needs to be that way. I don't think there's any reason it needs to be that way because, especially coming from the standpoint of someone who is a baseball fan, I want the game to grow. And I was having this conversation with someone this morning about just sort of the impact something like the World Cup or the World Baseball Classic has around the world on the game. You know, 70 million people watched Japan versus South Korea. 12 million people watched the World Series. Japan versus South Korea is a baseball game that happened 2 weeks ago. The World Series is supposed to be the biggest part of the sport here in America, and it got blown away just in the viewers because of how global the game is. And there are people out there who think that these games are meaningless because, Major League Baseball players might get hurt playing in these games, playing for their country. And then some of those players have come back and said, I don't regret this. I don't care if I get hurt. Like, playing for this is like the things that I'm doing here in this, like, essentially the World Cup of baseball mean the most to me. Like, these are bigger than anything I've ever done in a World Series or anything like that. And I think that just goes to show how important the game is to the people who are playing it, and just how much of a shame it is that sports fans are trying to keep people out of it or make it a space that isn't easy to come into. And with my fiance, the reason I mentioned them, like, I do a thing where every time something happens, I'll make a comment about it, and then the commentator about 10 seconds later says the exact thing that I said, as if I'm the predictive text for this sports broadcast. And it's just because I've watched so much of this. I've been so involved in these sports, and I'm just like, I love it. I really do. I have so much passion. I love my teams, even if they're not good. And like, I don't ever want to sit here and like berate I'm never going to like tweet at a player and be like, hey, you suck. Like, I hate you. Like, I won't ever do that, even if they're a player who's not playing very well for my favorite team. But I'll also, as someone who does like the journalism side of things, like make a comment like, this guy's not performing well, and I do think this team should probably move on from him at some point in his life, at some point this season, because it's not working out. Like, I wish the dude the best and all, but his numbers are bad. Like, he does kind of stink a little bit, but not in like,
still a human being, but this is his job.
Yeah. And the thing is, my fiance's learned a lot about baseball and just a lot more about the rules of football and all these things that I know the rules of, because I've sat there, and anytime we're watching a game or something, like during football season, on Sundays, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and I very much love my team, and I love watching it. And there have been some games that were hard for me to get through.
There have been some games. You're right, Robert. There have been some games that were hard.
Some that were hard. And then in the last couple of years, some of them have gotten easier. Some of them have been incredibly emotionally exhausting, especially when NFL record field goals were being like kicked against you, and you thought you were going to win, and then you didn't. There's a lot, like, sports. That's the beauty of sports, though. Like, the highs and lows are like nothing else for me. And I want to share that joy and that sorrow at times when it is necessary with the people I love who also love the game. Like I mentioned earlier, like when I was in middle school and I saw the Yankees win the World Series back in 2009, and me and my grandfather walked out of the stadium, seeing the just collective group of sports fans, like, not tearing down light poles and rioting and looting, and like they do in some cities with some fan bases that are known to be a little toxic, just a wee bit. Not that New York sports fan bases aren't known to be toxic, but just seeing a group of people just so happy and so together was incredible. I'm like, this is what humanity can be. We can be happy and together, or we can be sad and together, but we can be together with just some unifying force at times. And that's like such a cool thing. Like nerds come together over the things that they love. Like there's so much like pop culture content out there, and there's so many shows made over like fandoms and just, you know, what nerds like are, like love, like Critical Role and stuff like that. Like these are shows born out of fandom. Like
Yeah. Yes, that
and
community.
and the communities, like sometimes communities can be beautiful and other times communities take it a little bit too far, and that's a shame. But I don't think in making this game, I wanted to make sure that I made it as accessible as possible, because I wanted to be able to bring anybody into it. I wanted you to bring anyone in your life into it and be able to share this thing with them and not have to jump through a bunch of unnecessary hoops just to maybe understand what's going on.
Right.
Like you can go through and play ball and learn a lot about baseball. You can go through and play ball and play, you know, a whole campaign of it or a whole season, as you can call it, and learn literally zero about baseball. And either way, you can still have fun. And
Sure.
I think that was the goal. That's the reason I make games at all. Like it's so that the people who play these games have fun. If you're not having fun, then I didn't do my job as a designer. That makes me a bad designer. If I can make mechanics that work, but if they're not fun, they don't matter. Like I'm a bad
That's a good way to
designer if
look at
you're
it.
not having fun. So I want
Well,
everyone to be able to have fun.
I think you absolutely did that passion into this, the humanity part of it as well. I do want to talk about the position tropes, because I did find these really fun, to go back to character creation. So you've got a lot of them. I don't want to necessarily read through all of them, but I want to touch on
There's 15 in
15 in
particular.
total. Okay.
Five per category.
Per position, yeah. So yeah, you've got it broken down to pitchers struggling third year. I think is a great concept, versus like your backup turned starter. And I mean, you can even look in media and see where these are pulled from, which absolutely I love that about tropes, and being able to play into a concept that you've seen before, or a concept like, oh, I find that really interesting. I find the drama of that interesting.
Also,
Yeah,
I nope, never mind. I thought I lied. I thought there were 6 for pitchers and then 5 for infielders and outfielders. I'm wrong. I read my own document wrong.
okay. Uh,
Disregard what I was about to say.
Absolutely. To something you said earlier, the rookie does have a baby in a diaper holding a normal sized bat. It is very good iconography.
Baby with a bat.
Baby with a bat.
My fiance's favorite. I also honestly I like, because I made the primary ability. I called it "Smells Like Team Spirit" for that one. I worked very hard on some of these, just the names of and some of these are like things that are said in baseball. Others are definitely not. Like rally cap, that's a thing. Hot corner, that's a thing. Moonshot, slugger, those are things that are said at times. Obviously, there's another one somewhere in here, jack of all trades, master of none. That's not a baseball specific thing. But you know, if you play this game or even look at the book, please appreciate some of those, because I'm
The
proud
writing's
of
very good. Yeah.
I'm very proud of them.
I'm appreciative not only of the titles you've given all of the tropes, but also their abilities as well. It's you already get a feel before you read the rest of it of what you're going to get yourself into. Yeah, you have again, a utility player, and jack of all trades is one skill, master of none is the other. I love that. The rebel, which again very much gave me that Charlie Sheen and Major League feel, where you have fired up and rallying cry as the abilities. The injured player being a trope as well. That's all very good. And then you have relationship breakdowns as well, which I found very interesting as a number of suggestions. So this is for relationships between PCs and or between NPCs and PCs.
Yes. So you obviously you're all playing as characters on a team. So there are certain ones like the battery mate relationship. It's the first one in here just as an example. So a battery in baseball is the pitcher and the catcher. They create a relationship. They form a battery. That is just kind of what that is. And in sports anime in particular, in especially in Ace of Diamond, and there was another one. There's in Ace of Diamond, it's really, really great because the main character Sawamura, he's kind of like he's got a ton of talent, and he gets brought onto this like major team, like this big powerhouse team, and he kind of struggles at first despite having like this one really good pitch, and it's great, but he forms a battery with a third year catcher who ends up quitting because he's got to focus on his exams, and he can't play anymore because he's gotten hurt. The injured player, for example. So you can take whatever tropes you have, you can take whatever you've got going on, and you can and realistically, the infielder and the outfielder stuff, you can swap like which position you're playing. It's just, it's not that important. Some of these abilities are very much like completely interchangeable with where you decide to put your character on the field. I want to be very clear about that, but
I think a lot of it's also to help the umpires, since they seem to have a decent amount to manage too, and
the battery mate is just the relationship between the pitcher and catcher. Like, it can make or break whether or not you have a successful game as a pitcher if you have a good relationship with your catcher, because you two are communicating directly, non-verbally, throughout the entire game and trying to kind of control the flow of the game. Like, you want to throw a certain pitch somewhere because you actually want a guy to hit it and send it, potentially create like a double play or something like that. So you have that relationship, but that relationship isn't just created on field, it's created off the field too. Like, that's the person you can trust. Like, during practice, the pitchers and the catchers are throwing to one another all day long. Like, they spend most of practice just pitching in the bullpen, like back and forth to each other. And then, you have romantic partners and your parents and player and coach, or classmates, which obviously you have your own pals going, mentor and student.
I was going to say earlier, interesting idea is to have maybe even a player on your rival team be your romantic partner, and have that as a stressor in your final game. Have that as part of your rivalry.
Yeah, and these are things that you'll see pop up in sports. Like, watch Ace of Diamond, or go watch Haikyuu, or whatever. Like, watch these sports anime and then come back to me and say, oh yeah, no, I saw these tropes like word for word, essentially, because I've watched and consumed hundreds of hours of sports anime, of anime in general. Like, I love anime. I love sports anime. I love sports. I love TTRPGs, and I threw it all together in this 20-something page PDF, and use these relationships in whatever way is, like your relationship with your classmates, or with your parents, or even, your best friends, your siblings, mentor, student, whatever, all of these different potential relationships that you might have. And there's some that aren't listed here that you can just come up with on your own. Like, don't let my, few ideas I had at the time limit your creativity or imagination. But
these are suggestions to inspire. We all know what tropes are. Go forth.
Yeah, and it's, do whatever you want with these, but you can have friendly rivals, you can have bitter rivals, it doesn't matter, but like, it's just, it adds to your character, it adds to the story that you want to tell, and they're just tools to help you get across the finish line, really. But you watch any anime and you're like, these are all things that I've seen in these characters in these anime that I like, and I think that's cool. I just thought it was a fun narrative element, because the game's not all about the mechanics and the dice rolls. It is a game. Absolutely. You are telling a story. It is a game made to tell stories, using baseball as the sort of facilitator in the medium, and maybe the meat of it. But the reality of it is, whatever you want to do with your character, whatever story you want to tell, that's the most important part about it, and these are the tools to kind of help you get there.
Yeah, it's a role-playing game. Role play. One of my favorite things is again the explanations that you give, looking at the explaining positions in baseball. If you've ever wondered what a knuckleball is, here it is in very
It's
plain
my favorite
English.
pitch,
Yeah.
100%.
If you ever wondered what all of the different types of, like, a knuckle curve, like there's so many different types of pitches that you never knew existed if you've only like just watched baseball and never gotten into it. I loved reading through this and being like, oh, here's all the stuff I never knew. And then breaking down and kind of saying like, okay, so you have chosen to be a pitcher, so you have chosen to be infield or outfield. Here's kind of what gameplay would look like for you. And yeah, we did talk about kind of how the roles would work. Again, the D4 result for the ball in play, for a foul ball. I love the percentages on that, the 3 to 4, so 50% chance at a hit. That's great. That also feels very much like it's fitting in with a story as well.
Mm-hmm.
You got hit location, so I'll say this right now: if you are the umpire, the only battle map you ever have to worry about is just a baseball field. Put that into Roll20. You've got it.
Yep.
You can section it out from there.
And you can keep reusing it over and over and
It's not going to
over.
change. Yeah, that's the best thing about baseball versus soccer. I know soccer is super popular. Why are the fields different sizes? You can never convince me that that's a good idea. And then, yes, absolutely, very much to your credit. I think something that I said off stream, I'll say here. It includes a description of safety tools, which I think all TTRPGs should have this. Major credit to Robin for that. It has something on breaking the rules. It has umpires tools. I'm not going to give you this all for free, because I absolutely think you should give Robin your $10 and get this yourself. And then at the end, you have the spring games. You actually have a mini module included, which like the best of TTRPGs, you've done so with characters included and names, and this is a wonderful book that I'm very glad that you put out. I know you mentioned earlier that the Kickstarter was disencouraging and maybe, you know, traction on it wasn't great. I'm very glad that you weren't discouraged, that this did come out. I'm very glad that that this is available, because I think the more people that kind of realize that their prior conceptions about it are misconceptions, and I think that's going to be a lot of people, is I don't want to talk about sports ball. No, you're wrong. This is fun, and it's going to help you understand something that has, like you said, a lot of history to it and a lot of interest worldwide, and it gives you this this piece of belonging in a greater fandom, something you've really appreciated for a lot of your life. And I think a lot of people would really find that they really find some happiness there if they could get past like their own misconceptions and realize like, oh, it's not just sports ball. This is something that's bigger and better and more beautiful. And that's, I think you did a fantastic job in making that a part of what you wrote.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's the goal for me. I know I've said it a bunch of times. I know I'll keep saying it forever. I hope that if you're someone who is hearing this right now and you're like, I don't care for sports, I don't care for baseball. Even if you care for sports, you might not care for baseball. I hope that if you've got some people in your life who maybe do, that you're willing to give Play Ball a shot, play with them, and I don't know, have a good time, and maybe see a different side of it. Enjoy it in a different way. You don't ever have to care about real life baseball. You can just care about your little fictional baseball teams that you're creating and the lives that you're building with these characters. And
Absolutely.
you finish a season, maybe you come back 20 years in the future, those characters have moved on with their lives, and it's a full-on like Sandlot situation where a new generation has taken over and is trying to remember the past successes and successes and failures of those characters in the past. It creates an easy world building history. What did this championship or loss in a championship game mean to this town? Like, what impact did it have 20 years down the line? And you can bring those old characters back. You can bring new characters in. Maybe you're playing your own characters' kids. Like, who knows?
I love
Like,
that.
who knows? You can do that, and play ball just kind of opens the door for you. And I hope that you give this game that I poured my heart and soul into for years of my life, that has exhausted me to an unimaginable level. I hope you give it a shot and, play it and, come back and tell me that maybe it was the right tool to tell that like slice of life story that you've been dying to tell. And maybe you didn't want to use Kids on Bikes or something else that can like do that exact sort of thing for you. But, maybe you just chose to do it differently, chose to step into my world a little bit, and hopefully it works out. But yeah, I mean, I had high hopes for the Kickstarter. It seemed like it was going to succeed. We had a really great, strong start on the first day, and it kind of petered out. And there were a couple of people who I don't know who, sent me messages to try and tell me how I could have done better, that were really discouraging. And I tried not to let it get to me. But then I obviously got in my own head about like this thing that I worked on that was trending upwards that has now fallen off a cliff. It didn't help that there were other sports TTRPGs being kickstarted at the same time that were reaching their funding levels in a matter of hours, that I, regrettably was sitting there like, what does their game have that mine doesn't? What did I do wrong? What did I do differently? And the only thing I could put my finger on was I chose baseball. I didn't just make it like sports agnostic or something like that. And, I let myself beat myself up about it for a long time. I thought I had just chosen the wrong thing, and it didn't matter how good it was. I just chose something that wasn't ever going to be popular with people, and that was a hard thing to like wrestle with. And I then had to sit through the rest of the Kickstarter and watch the number just inch closer and closer to the goal, but not quickly enough to actually reach the funding goal.
Right.
And then I had to communicate to the people who I was planning on working with, and the people who are creating some really cool rewards. Like there's hold on one second, I have a D20 that there were going to be a bunch made for one of the tiers as part of the Kickstarter. If I can, it is a baseball D20
with the stitching on it. That's great.
Yeah, and it's a hand painted dice and everything, and it was just so cool. And when I had to say, hey, thanks for making that one prototype, but the Kickstarter failed, so I'm not going to be able to get the rest of these, which was very sad. Like communicating to the people who were making really cool things like the jerseys and like the tokens and these hand painted dice, that we weren't going to be able to go forward, and that the mock-ups and like all these other things that we had talked about, we weren't actually going to follow through with. I had to tell a really incredible, super talented artist who I was like dying to work with that it wasn't going to happen because I wasn't going to be able to afford it. And then I was sitting there wondering how I was going to be able to afford it out of pocket myself to make it happen. And fortunately my day job, I've continued to work really hard and move forward in my life outside of everything, and I was making enough money to be able to afford to pay for layout and pay even my own fiance for art, because you pay your artists no matter who they are, no matter what they do, even if they refuse to accept the money. You just find other ways, like, hey, okay, you might not accept a flat like just transfer of funds to your bank account, but guess what, I'm paying for all these groceries for the next 3 months and you can't do anything about it. Like, you want that chocolate bar, guess what, you're getting one every day for the rest of your life. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. you find ways to pay your artists no matter what, even if they're refusing to accept payment. That's something I stand by. Give people your
100%.
money.
Yeah. And to reiterate something Maya said in chat, and actually something Kayla said in chat, a lot of people are glad that the game is out. And yeah, the game is to
Me too.
yeah. The game is to tell stories. It is a way for you all to conceptualize how a story is told. You know, whether you're filling your teams with vampires and werewolves, or it's kaiju playing baseball, or what have you.
Oh, please, kaiju playing baseball. Absolutely. Please.
Right?
Send me
Yeah.
a link to the show that you're doing that on.
Put kaiju on the moon. Have them play baseball in space.
All right, so Sword and Key, I've got a pitch for you.
There you go. Yeah, sold. Yeah, yeah. You're just tell me what time you want to run it. We'll make it work. But it's a way to use baseball as almost a way to conceptualize the drama of your story. You know, so often we have fantasy games where combat is the way that we resolve any type of drama or any type of conflict. What if baseball was that? What if you were able to use this to better conceptualize, and then have those periods in between, have your time in the dugout, have the time after the baseball game. This is a fantastic game, and I know I've said that a lot, but Robin, you can really tell the work that you put in, and I hope now that it's out, folks can just, again, if you have the $10, please support this game. It is worth it. It is worth more than that. It is a deal at $10. You're getting much more than that alone would typically buy you. And I mean, with that, you're getting character sheets, you're getting everything you need to run the game aside from the dice themselves. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this. I love everything about it. I would love to see more of it. And again, it's one of the first sports-based TTRPGs that I think does a really good job of, you mentioned before, sports agnostic. Roll a die, it tells you whether you succeed or not. I think a game needs to focus on a specific sport. It needs to have those specific dice rolls, because chance is different for every single game. Football and baseball are not the same. They never will be. They're so vastly different that you can't rely on the same dice rolls for them. So yes, I highly encourage everybody out there. I'm going to throw this out there right now. You can find Play Ball, include the exclamation point. It is part of the title. It's Call Me Caulfield, which is Robin's username. Caulfield is caulfield.itch.io/play-ball. And you can find that on Sword and Keys Twitter. It is the right after the promotional tweet for this stream. We will be retweeting Robin's stuff as well. Robin, before we get to plugs and anything else, is there anything that we missed? Anything else you wanted to talk about with the game, or anything that we didn't hit on?
I don't think so. I feel like we talked. So here's the thing. It's a 20-something page PDF. There's not a lot of moving parts to this game. A lot of the work creatively does kind of fall on you and your group, not because I was lazy, but because I wanted to give people the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do without locking them into a box. And because you can, like we've said a couple times now, you can throw the game into any other system if it fits your campaign and you just want to have, a little bit of fun. But one thing I would like to say, and I do think this was a huge selling point, and there's a reason I included it in the core book. There are some pre-generated characters, so if you don't want to put in all the legwork into creating a character before you even know if you want to play the game long term, there's a one-shot, the spring game. It's what I ran during the Kickstarter. You can use the pre-generated characters, throw them into the spring game little module, and play a game. It is you can test out both mechanical styles, and in fact I encourage that I encourage people to play the one shot when they're sitting down with their group for the first time, after you talk about safety tools and everything, which is also included in the book, which is really important. I included that in the tool kits and everything, and it's a section in the book because it's important and you should use it in all of your games. So if you're not doing it already, maybe, use my small little guidelines that I put in Play Ball and, do that forever going forward, because you should. It's just the smart thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And the one shot, the spring game, after you sit down and talk about the safety tools, you can decide to go with the crunchy style of play, or you can go with the alternative style, which focuses much more on the narrative elements. And if that works better for your group, then you should play it that way. That's why I put it in there. I created 2 games, really, 2 ways to play this one game with just the various different things. I even, in that alternative style, you don't get a secondary ability. You only get your primary ability because the games are shorter. You play in less phases. You're only playing kind of like 3 big scenes rather than 9 separate half innings. And play the one shot. Play, yes, give me your money, buy the game, that'd be awesome. But more than anything, get together with your friends, try something new. And if that new thing that you're trying with your friends is Play Ball, then, try out the one shot, see if there's not something there that you guys want to use going forward, and see if you can't have a good time playing the game. I put the one shot in there so that you don't have to do a lot of the work to prep the first time, and you can decide if it's worth the work later. But I think it will be.
Literally all there for you already for $10, potentially less depending on if Itch is doing a sale or something like that. Fantastic. Thank you again, Robin. This has been amazing. I really appreciated you coming on, you chatting about this game. To plug this one more time and kind of give a little bit of background. Actually, I'll do that in a second. Robin, where can we find you? Where can we find more of your stuff? Anything else that you wanted to kind of shout from the mountaintop?
You can find me pretty much almost anywhere on the internet at Call Me Caulfield. That is on your screen. It's also spelled CALLMECAULFIELD. I'm on Twitter more than anything. Sometimes I stream. I know I've been dark for a little while, but I will stream video games. But if I'm doing a podcast or something, you'll be able to see me talking about it on Twitter. I use Instagram when I decide to go out and look nice. I haven't done that in a while, so I haven't used Instagram in a while because I work too much. You can ask my fiance. They think I work too much. I think I work too much. But, itch.io, callmecaulfield.itch.io is where you'll probably see a lot of my TTRPG work going forward. I'll also be tweeting about it. Right now, there's just Play Ball and a Warlock subclass that I made, the Primordial, for D&D 5e. That's a thing that I did that I like, that I'm proud of. That's available for like $1 or more. It's just a Warlock subclass where instead of choosing like a deity type patron, you're choosing just a primordial entity. And I just thought that was neat. And I think I did it really cool because you get like mundane magic items that kind of fit the mold for those. That'll give you like cantrips or whatever. It's cool. You can buy Play Ball and that for $11, which I think is cool. So
literally less than 3 things at Starbucks. I 100% dig that. That's very cool. Awesome. Well, yes, definitely check out Robin at all those places and support her. She does amazing work, and I can't again recommend Play Ball enough. I have not read the Primordial thing, but it sounds amazing, so I'm gonna go check that out.
It rules. I'm just saying, there's not cool art in there, but it rules. I think it is a great thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so for Sword and Key stuff, definitely check out our Twitter. Again, you can find the link to Robin's Itch on the post we made for this session. So Sword and Key is separated by underscores. So sword underscore and underscore key. You can find us on Twitter there. You can also join our Discord there and chat more. If you have questions for Robin that perhaps you didn't want to post in chat here, or you think of maybe later, you can join our Discord and ask in the Sword and Tea chat, and I will make sure that people get tagged and whatever questions get asked. Of course, keep all questions respectful. Some upcoming stuff for Sword and Key, the channel itself. We don't have another Sword and Tea planned at this point. Those will be coming up soon as we get discussion points and other games to chat about. However, we do have Fraying Threads. Our Invisible Sun campaign returns this Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Horizon's Call is back this weekend, but with a special prequel episode. We are doing the Scarlet prequel, so look for some high seas trauma. I'm going to use that word. And that's at 3 p.m. Pacific this Saturday. Let's see. We also have Ryutama is going to start April 9th at 10 a.m. That is a Sunday. And we have another campaign that I can't remember right now. We have a Brindlewood Bay campaign, which is starting soon, and I'm going to pull that date up as soon as my mouse wants to work. But until then, like I said,
I love Brindlewood. Sorry, have to interrupt you. Yeah, I
please.
love Brindlewood Bay. It's so good.
This will be a pseudo sequel to a Monster Hearts game that was run on our channel last year. So it will be a group of, I believe they're like cozy mystery writers who are all coming to the same camp that the Monster Hearts game was placed in, and it's the same players playing different characters but in the same setting. So I'm very excited for that. That is going to start on April 16th at 3 p.m. Pacific. So with all of that, if you want to find more of me, it's dsword16 on Twitter, but I'm putting a lot of my work into Sword and Key right now, so definitely check that out. I think that's everything we have for today. So again, a very special thank you to Robin for joining us, for sharing this wonderful game with us. Please support her, support the game, and until next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you around.
There will be a next time. I'll be back for sure.
Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Bye, everybody.